One of the main things that I saw was talking to current students. That was a big part of the interview day, was sitting down with current students, whether it was over lunch, whether it was over a tour, and talking to them about what the school's about. And I found that to be very helpful because they didn't hold anything back. They told it how it was. They weren't trying to sell anything. They wanted to tell you how it was. So I found that to be really helpful that they took time out of their day to come talk to us about the schools. So whenever people are interviewing, the biggest piece of advice I can give them is if you have any questions, do not hold back. Ask those students those questions and they'll give you their honest feedback. That was a big part.
This is the Oath podcast presented by MedEdits Medical Admissions. You will learn about all things related to being pre-med, the medical school admissions process, and the residency match. I am your host, Dr. Jessica Freedman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Oath podcast. I think this is our 7th episode, and I'm actually really excited about today's episode because I have a real student with me here today. I want to introduce you to Cason Cox. He is a senior in college at Texas A&M, and he was just accepted to medical school. So a traditional applicant who applied at the end of his junior year of college, which, as we know, is becoming the rarity. Only 25% roughly of applicants are applying to medical school at the end of their junior year. So just for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Jessica Freedman. I am the chair and founder of MedEdits Medical Admissions. I am an emergency physician, and I am also a former faculty member at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. So I'm just going to sort of give a very short summary of Cason, my amazing student. And Cason, thank you so much for giving us your time and for sharing your story, because it's going to help a lot of students. And for that, we are incredibly, incredibly grateful. So thank you so much, first of all. And interestingly, Cason found me from his mom, who is in our Facebook group. And if you don't know about our Facebook group, you should, and I will link that below in the show notes. But Cason's mom is a part of our Facebook group, and I had posted in there asking for volunteers, student volunteers who wanted to be interviewed about their application process, because I think it's incredibly useful for current students, for current applicants to hear from actual applicants. So a little kind of tidbit about Cason. So he is a Texas resident. He applied through TMDSAS to Texas schools. He also applied to Osteopathic medical schools through AACOMAS. He had a 499 on the MCAT. Like I said, he was a traditional applicant, meaning he applied at the end of his junior year of college, and he is now a senior in college. So Cason, when you initially told some people that you were applying to med school, and you told them what your MCAT was. You told them, look, I'm a junior. What did people say? Like, did you get any feedback from anybody? I'm just curious.
Yes, ma'am. So I just wanted to start out by saying thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. But I think my kind of medical school journey started a long time ago. I've always wanted to go to med school. My dad sent me a picture the other day of me with a stethoscope at like career day and kindergarten. So it's been a long time coming. So I've had a lot of really good people around me that have pushed me to do that because it is my dream. And once I started doing all my MCAT studying and all that, I had a lot of really good people there to just give me advice about what to do. Mm-hmm. And once I got my MCAT back, there were some people that said, hey, you might need to look into taking another year, just a gap year. You might need to look into doing a master's program or something like that, and then retaking. But I was dead set on applying. I knew that I felt like I had a really good story to tell, so I wanted to be able to tell that. So I went ahead and applied and said, whatever happens, and I'm going to be blessed either way. And I was lucky to be accepted.
Good for you. You're an incredibly positive person, and you're so grateful. And we're not going to give anything away just yet. So I want to take everyone through your application cycle and through your pre-med path and all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
But yes, I agree. I think you have a great story to tell, and I think that's going to, come out when we talk more about your background and more about your application itself. And I think that was probably incredibly appealing to medical schools. And I think it also really emphasizes the importance of mission fit, right? So that medical schools are reviewing applicants within the context of what their missions are and the type of applicants whom they're seeking. So just tell me a little bit, because whenever we are working with students and we are trying to help them come up with their narratives, and you really have a very beautiful narrative, we always ask them about, tell me about how you grew up, tell me about your background, tell me about the area in which you grew up and sort of what was distinctive about that area. So tell me about that within the context as well, in terms of, how that motivated you, how that inspired you, and, maybe how that sort of helped to solidify what your goals and your values are today.
Yes, ma'am. So I grew up in a little town called Kilgore, Texas. It's out in East Texas. We had about 12,000 people. So right off the bat, we had a big disparity in our health. So meaning like our access to health and stuff like that. So I had a lot of family who experienced really rare complications. I had a great uncle that had Guillain-Barré. He still has Guillain-Barré, but when he contracted that, there was no place for him to go. There was no specialist that was able to see him. And if they would have caught it earlier, if we would have been in a bigger area such as Dallas or Fort Worth or Houston or something like that, there would have been people there to take care of him and catch that earlier, but we didn't have anybody with the capabilities. So that was about 16 years ago, and that really made it put it in perspective of where we were with our health. We really didn't have much as far as emergency rooms and specialists around us. There was a town close called Longview, but it was about a 30-minute drive. I had to travel 45 minutes to go see a family practitioner, stuff like that. So I knew that I wanted to go back eventually. I knew that I wanted to serve those in the rural community that I grew up in. And I know a lot more people are dealing with that, from Texas to where you are in New York. I mean, there are rural areas up there, and it's all throughout the United States. It's not just Kilgore, Texas. Yeah. Not just Henderson, Texas, or whatever it may be. There are a lot of places that are dealing with that. And I really talked about that in my application because that's what I believe. That's what I stand on. Those are my missions, is serving those that really brought me up and taught me how to be a good person. I mean, it's a tight-knit community. And at the end of the day, I want to go back and help those people that I grew up with.
Amazing. That's really, really admirable and incredible. And yes, you wrote about this, not to sort of jump around too much, but you did write about this in your medical school personal statement, which was incredible. So you wrote about your uncle Ronnie, and how difficult that was, but also at the same time, kind of how that inspired you. How old were you when that happened?
I think I'm really not I
was like high school, like on the really young side. I'm just kind of curious.
I was on the really younger side. There was a lot of stuff going on then. I remember I was playing baseball. That's the biggest thing. So,
right, and you wrote about the baseball as well in your personal statement, which was wonderful. Yeah. So you were young. I mean, you were maybe not even in high school, but even then, that kind of was incredibly motivating to you to, sort of make a difference in that way once you were old enough to do so. And then, again, I don't want to jump around too much, but you then wrote about in your personal statement, how you worked with a physician, a neurologist, right, in your area, and how you really then learned in a very firsthand kind of way, behind the scenes kind of way, about these discrepancies in healthcare. And, can you tell me a little bit about that and why that was meaningful to you?
Yes, ma'am. So I worked with a neurologist named Dr. Rajani Ruth Caesar in Longview. And that was a great opportunity for me because I was able to see people coming from all over. We had people coming from an hour and a half away to see a neurologist that had been dealing with pretty progressive and severe diseases. And they were on the wait list for months. And that was really disheartening because they would come in and I would sit them down and they'd be like, why couldn't we get in sooner? What's been the holdup? Our family member, our grandpa, whatever it may be, has gotten worse since the last time we saw you, and we've been calling and we just haven't had any room to see him. So that definitely shifted my perspective on other people who are dealing with it as well. So yeah, amazing.
So let's just walk me through your pre-med path. I mean, I think we have a pretty great understanding of kind of where your initial inspiration comes from, and it's really amazing. I mean, would you say that you entered college, and you're at Texas A&M? Would you say that you entered college knowing that you were going to be pre-med and that this is what you were going to do with your life?
Yes, ma'am. So I entered as a biomedical science major. And I knew from the get-go I was going to do pre-med. My whole college schedule was centered around, okay, when am I going to take my MCAT? Who do I need to talk to get in a better shape for the MCAT? Who do I need to talk to for my applications? Everything in college was kind of shaped around, at least schedule-wise, when I was going to do everything. So definitely from that first day on campus, I was going to do medical school.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So you bring up a really amazing point. I mean, students who are able to successfully apply to medical school at the end of their junior year have to be very organized, very focused, very on the ball on day one, right? And so you were that. Can you walk in order to sort of be successful in being that way? You really did have to have a very structured idea of what classes you were taking when you were taking the MCAT. And this is sort of a lot of what we talk about when we're trying to come up with a timeline for our students to determine, when are they ready to take the MCAT. So walk me through, to start, just sort of your academic path and how you made sure that you got all your prerequisites in, and then when your MCAT preparation and taking your MCAT fit into that overall timeline.
Yes, ma'am. So one of the best people I was able to talk to was my advisors. My advisors played a very big role in how I conducted my class schedule, what I took, when I took it, stuff like that. And as well as that, we had it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like a schedule look ahead. It's a schedule planner for 4 years. So I was able to see exactly what to take, exactly when to take it. So Texas A&M set me up really well through that. But that was a really big part, was just talking to advisors, talking to our OPSA, which is our Office of Professional School Advising. I talked to the people that knew better than me because
good for you.
I did not know everything. I watched YouTube videos. I looked at forums. I did whatever I could to kind of get some more information. And ultimately, I just talked to people that knew more than me. And they told me when to take my MCAT and ultimately how to get prepared for that through classes.
Great. That's amazing that you had great pre-med advising. And we really always encourage students to always engage their pre-med advisors, whether you think they're helpful or not. You want them invested in your process, and your humility is so important. That humility goes such a long way, not only as a pre-med student, as a med student, but just in life in general. And, that's incredible. And I think that must have come through, because that's just coming through in 13 minutes of us talking to one another. So I am sure that in your letters of recommendation, letter writers must have written about all these qualities and characteristics as well. Okay. And this is something that we talk about a lot, that we can, get a sense of a student's qualities and characteristics. So we have a really good idea of what content is likely to be included in those letters of recommendation. So that's incredible. So, so you had a very, very structured pre-med curriculum. And when did you take your MCAT?
So I took it, I believe, April 25th of last year.
Of your junior year?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Excellent. My last
so
spring semester.
So you took it like just about a month before submitting your applications?
Yes, ma'am. So I actually, I believe I submitted my application without the
Yep.
So
that's scary.
I was betting on myself. So
good for you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's wonderful. Good for you. And that again, that's a gutsy thing.
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
a gutsy thing to do, and you did it. Okay, let's talk about your experiences. Tell me what you got involved with as an undergraduate. And we're going to talk a little bit about the TMDSAS application as well, the Texas Medical School Application Service. Or there's dental in there too, right? Texas
Yes, ma'am.
Medical Dental School Application Service.
Yeah,
Dental's not less important to me. But so walk me through, the things that were sort of most important to you, not only including your most meaningfuls, and we'll go over those, but what did you get involved with, let's say, as soon as you got to campus? So here you are a student, very focused, you're going to be applying as at the end of junior year. I mean, it sounds like you went in sort of with that in mind as well. So what did you get involved with as soon as you got to campus? How did you sort of establish yourself and kind of establish that pre-med extracurricular profile once you got to school?
Yes, ma'am. So with that, I believe you've got to have everything. You've got to be able to be in leadership organizations. You've got to be able to be in professional organizations. So when I got to campus, I joined something called FLIP, which was a freshman leadership organization. And through that, I was able to meet a bunch of like-minded freshmen. And that was really a formational part of when I made my friends. That was how I made my friends and made my connections. And through that, I met a lot of other pre-med people. It wasn't strictly just pre-meds. It was people from construction science, from business, from engineering, all over. So at the end of the day, we all just wanted to grow in our leadership. We wanted to grow in being a person that people can look up to. So I joined that, and I was able to get that moving and meet a lot of people. And I also joined the Biomedical Sciences Association, which goes into that professional organization. And through that, I was able to do a lot of things with really early on how to structure my college career, how to get my appropriate hours shadowing, how to look into things for MCAT, stuff like that. So that was my freshman year, and it was a great time. So
yeah, did you have any fun?
Yeah,
I mean,
yes,
it's important
ma'am.
to have fun in college too.
Yes, ma'am. I had a lot of fun with
Good.
with football games. Football at A&M is king.
Amazing.
With
Good.
sports, stuff like that, and we were able to have events with other organizations. So I think there are about 27 freshman leadership organizations on campus. So we were able to have baseball tournament or softball tournaments with them. We were able to have hot dog eating competitions, but I was able to meet people from outside. So that was good too.
Wonderful. So would you say like freshman year was it an adjustment for you at all? Being in college and figuring out how to manage your time and figuring out how, how much can I socialize and yet still do well in classes? Like, how did you navigate all of that as a freshman?
Yes, ma'am. It was a big change from high school and from even like just going throughout my career in Kilgore. I had the same friends from my first day of school to the last day of school. So it was definitely a change on making friends. It was hard because I'd never really been put in that situation. Yeah. That was a really good part of it.
Yeah.
And it was a massive change. It was a change, and when I got those first exam scores back, it definitely was kind of hey, we need to figure out what works. So
interesting. So do you remember like getting that first bundle of Remind me, what did you take first semester freshman year?
So I was taking, I think the hardest class I was taking was a business calculus class.
Okay.
And I was taking biology, chemistry, stuff like that, all the prerequisites. But I think that first exam, I believe, was that business calculus, and I'm not a math-minded person at all. So I think I got that back, and it was a 50 or something, and I was just looking at it like, ooh, I gotta step my game up, and then I ended up doing good in that class. So it just taught me what didn't work and what worked. So
great.
It's better late than never with that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It all worked out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Cason, it all worked out. Okay, walk me through what else you got involved with and, kind of, like sophomore year into junior year, even summer after freshman year, and kind of, walk me through your involvements and how one led to the other and the decision making and everything of that nature.
Yes, ma'am. So after my freshman year in Flip, I joined staff for Flip, and I was able to run, it was a section inside of Flip called LAUGH, which was Leading America's Future. So I was able to curate all of our trips to the elementary school in Bryan, and I was able to set all that up and talk to the kids and just mentor those kids. And being able to mentor the kids pushed me in the direction of a men's org. And at A&M, I know you hear about a lot about fraternities and stuff in college, but at A&M we have fraternities and then we have men's orgs, which are more
and it's men's organizations. And can you explain what that is so that people, because this was something you wrote about in one of your essays, and we're going to get to the different components of the Texas application, but explain what a men's organization is, the purpose of it, and why it was meaningful to you.
Yes, ma'am. So the men's organizations are focused more on the service aspect, service and philanthropy. So the one I joined is called One Army, and our big thing is to go out to a boys and girls home out in Bryan and just mentor those kids. And we go every Friday, and that's really been a big part of my life, is mentoring the youth, because I know these kids come from some very hard situations and they may not have a father figure or brotherly type figure in their life. So I really strive to be that. And that's something I'm really attracted to within my college career. That's something I've done a lot of. So that was what pulled me towards One Army. So that was my men's organization. We do a lot with Still Creek, and we do a lot with a thing called Gladiator Dash, which is our big philanthropy event. But aside from the men's organization I joined, I was also in a thing called Muster. At A&M, muster is when you honor those who have passed in the last year. So you honor the fallen Aggies. And whenever they give all the names of the Aggies that have passed in the last year, and whenever you read off a name, you say, here. So for 3 or 4 hours, we're listening to the names of the fallen Aggies saying here. And I was able to be a muster host. So I walked all the families down and was able to talk to the families. So that was a really important part of my college career, because it showed that people are going through a lot, and if you're there for them, they'll naturally open up to you. They'll let it all out. They'll be emotional if you're there for them. And I wanted to give people a shoulder to express their emotions on. So I was able to talk to those people and be a guide and for them throughout their process. So that was really awesome. So
wait, and so who were you helping? You were helping family members?
Yes, ma'am. Family members are the ones that had passed. So they put the people that have passed, they put their names into a list, and their families are invited. So what muster hosts do are just guide the families to their seat in the auditorium and just talk to them. So I was able to do that, and that was really awesome. And then another thing was called Fish Camp. I did that twice. And A&M has a lot of traditions. A&M, I think, as you hear me talk, you'll see that
I'm getting that.
It's a different place. It's different than any other college in the nation. I love it, but there's a lot of people that don't know about A&M before they come. They don't know about the L leaders or football games or all the traditions that we have. So what Fish Camp counselors do is as an upcoming freshman, you go to fish camp and you're taught all the traditions and all the values that A&M holds. So I was able to be a counselor, and I was able to teach those traditions and values for 2 summers.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Amazing. Beautiful. Such amazing activities. And then in addition to, those, you also engaged in research,
yes, ma'am.
Right? Tell me, and you also engaged in some, healthcare related activities as well. Tell me about those experiences that are sort of more, I guess, traditionally pre-med in a sense. Like, what were the most important parts of those different kind of categories for you?
Yes, ma'am. So after my freshman year, I was able to be a medical assistant for Grace Neurology and Longview under Dr. Caesar. So I was able to spend a lot of time there. I was able to see the inner workings of how a practice runs, and it's a very small private practice. And I was really able to kind of get the behind the scenes, the stuff that you don't normally see. And I'm really grateful for that. And then my sophomore summer, after my junior year, I worked as an EEG technician. So I was able to perform electroencephalograms. Yes.
Wow.
It's a long word, but yes.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And those are very linked. Okay, let me
Yes, ma'am.
ask you these questions, because this is always these are common questions we get. To be a medical assistant, did Dr. Caesar bring you on and train you while, on site?
So there were a few days of me following her, seeing how she worked and following the other nurse that was there. But she really told me what she was looking for and said, you go do it and I'll watch you. So I was kind of thrown into the fire early.
Wow.
And she said she would give me feedback after my talks with the patients, or she'd correct me during them, or she'd be like, hey, we forgot to get your blood pressure, whatever it was, you need to do that next time. So she helped me a lot, and she made me realize what I did good and what I needed to work on. And that was really helpful to see my failures and grow from those.
Yeah, great.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you became an EEG tech, right? So also related to neurology. So those are very beautifully connected. And how did you have to get certification to be an EEG tech? Tell me about that.
So I was sent some things to use to know how to do it, but I was really just brought in. And it's funny enough, my great aunt was the one doing the EEGs, and she was about to have to leave. So she brought me in and she taught me how to do them. So, and I would only do them Thursday and Fridays. So it wasn't a lot of patients, but it was able to talk to them and walk them through those different situations. So.
Wow, great. And then you also had some additional shadowing experiences.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you an EKG tech too? Electrocardiogram tech as well?
So we ran the EKGs with the EEGs. Yes, ma'am. And then I was certified in EKG in high school as well.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. ECG. And then I also had phlebotomy technician certification in high school.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Did you ever work as a phlebotomist too?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I did a lot in the classroom of sticking my classmates and getting enough sticks for that certification, but I never worked as a phlebotomist.
Wow.
So.
Incredible.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of other community service activities, have we covered most of those, or were there any others that you did that were especially meaningful to you?
I think we've covered most of them. With Flip, I served at food banks, and with One Army, I do stuff at Steel Creek Ranch, and we run Gladiator Dash. And the cool thing about that was we raised $180,000 last year through one organization. So I was able to put a lot of time into that. And besides that, there's some small things here and there, but those are my main ones. And working with the kids through Flip at the elementary school.
Yeah. And then you also you have a real interest in music.
Yes, ma'am.
Since 6th grade, you played the violin. You now play and transcribe music. So you had some nice extracurricular activities there that probably potentially led to some interesting discussions, during your interviews. And then, let's sort of walk through the TMDSAS application. Let's talk about where you applied. So the TMDSAS application is very different, right, than MCAS and AACOMAS, so the allopathic and the osteopathic application systems. And, and so do you sort of, I realize it's now ancient history for you and you're into medical school, so you've probably forgotten it all, but do you remember all the different components of the application? Can you tell us about those in terms of activities and character counts? Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am. It was hard to fit everything into what I wanted to talk about. It's hard to fit those character counts, and I'd start typing, and then I realized I'd only gotten halfway through it when I ran out of those characters. So you really have to compress what you're talking about, and you have to hit the high points.
That's right. So for TMDSA application write-ups, you only have 300 characters. So and you did exactly what we advise our students to do. For these, you don't have to write in full sentences. You can really only afford bullets, right? And TMDSAS wants you to include every experience you've had, right, since you finished high school, right? Yeah. And all of the hours, and to list them chronologically. Okay. Then they also want you choosing 3 of those experiences and identifying them as your most meaningfuls, but you only get an additional 500 characters to elaborate. So it's really not that much, in my opinion.
It's hard to fit everything.
It's very hard. And what did you choose? You chose your neuroscience research, right? So let's talk about this, right? You had work. First of all, you had your own experience with, neurology problems, with your family. Then you shadowed a neurologist. Then you worked as a medical assistant with a neurologist. Then you were an EEG tech, and now you're also doing neuroscience research. So you really had these themes throughout your application, yet at the same time, you're very committed to rural communities where you grew up, and you wrote about that so beautifully in your personal statement, and we'll get to that. But in terms of your 3 most meaningfuls, you chose your neuroscience research. You chose your One Army, which is the Service and Leadership Men's Organization at A&M that you talked about. And then you talked about working as a medical assistant at Grace Neurology. So, we can see sort of the connections in your experiences here. And so I think that you selected those. Those were, we really want you choosing activities that are genuinely your most significant activities. We don't want you trying to game the system in any way.
Yes,
but I do like how these are connected. I have to be honest, and I think that they are a very, accurate representation of you and who you are and what's important to you. So I think that's really good. And then also, in TMDSAS, you also get to enter your planned activities, and you had a bunch of planned activities, and you have to re-enter, those. Even if they're things you've already done, you need to really re-enter them, right, as future activities as well. So I think you did a great job with that too. So that's really good. And so if we now, go ahead.
I was just going to touch on that. Touch on that research. Mm-hmm. But when I got into it kind of later, mm-hmm. but I had a lot of friends that were doing it early, and I just didn't know how to go about it. So a big thing that I did with that was try to figure out how to access those research projects. And honestly, I emailed a bunch of them that were already full. So that's how I actually got on with my research project. Was I emailed a team that was full, and she said, "Hey, we really like your CV. We like your resume. We want to invite you onto an interview." So I interviewed with them, and I was lucky to get on that full team. So
wow,
it was difficult to find that research, but I truly love it. That's something I look forward to every week. Just going to that.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
That's
I
great.
just wanted to touch on that real quick.
No, I think that's terrific. And certainly we say that for osteopathic med schools, research is less important, but it still is very helpful. So,
yes,
so you had, when you applied, you had about 50 hours of research, and then you also had your anticipated hours and your future activities, which also was going to layer on, right? Additional hours for that experience. But I think that's great. So, and you bring up a really good point. It's really important with research to be persistent. And it's hard. It's hard to get these experiences for students, but you've also proven that you don't have to have research in the hundreds and hundreds of hours in order to be successful in this process. So I think that's great. So now let's talk about the essays that are required of TMDSAS. And there is a personal statement, and the prompt is very direct for TMDSAS, right? Explain your motivation to seek a career in medicine. Be sure to include the value of your experiences that prepare you to be a physician. And you lead this with, as a kid who grew up on the baseball field, I learned more about how to drop and block or throw a runner down at second. I discovered how to be a leader, a teammate, and more importantly, how to be resilient. So you open up with, sort of the things that you learned as a kid, and then sort of how that was obviously going to be applicable to medicine, later on. And there are many, many parallels between athletics and medicine, certainly.
And then the hardest part of writing it, honestly, was that first sentence was just getting it in that this is what I'm going to write about. This is my hook. That's the hardest part, is figuring out what you want to hook people with. So that honestly almost took me longer than writing the rest of it, because once you get that first sentence down, it all flows out. I wanted to mention that.
I think that's right. And students do have a really hard time, and you sort of need to decide how you're going to open it up. And frankly, honestly, you had a lot of experiences you could have opened with. Because you have so many meaningful experiences. You could have opened with Uncle Ronnie, your story. You could have opened up with a vignette from your work with Dr. Caesar. There are so many things you could have opened with that would have been powerful. And so what's important is that you choose the story that's the most important to you. And I also think, look, there is something, very grounding, let's say, to start with an experience that starts with your youth, this is who I am, and this sort of is reflective of my values, right? And then you very beautifully, move into the story of your grandfather. I don't want to mispronounce his name. What did you call him? What was your name for him?
So I called him Dado.
Dado,
yes,
right. So he unexpectedly fell ill while cheering me on at one of my baseball games. So here we are linking this, right? So it's a very natural and beautiful transition from baseball to here, Dado became ill at one of your games, and how, and how he was diagnosed, right, with ALS, and then how Uncle Ronnie then became sick with Guillain-Barré, and then how this kind of really helped you to see the lack of access to care in your community, and then how that then led you to do your work with Dr. Caesar to understand, these gaps in rural areas. And you also wrote so beautifully about that. So, I think this is, and you also mentioned some of your academic work and your research. So I think this is a very cohesive personal statement that, tells your story quite beautifully, and says a lot about your values and who you are and what's important to you. Then TMDSAS has you write a personal characteristics essay. Also is, I think, a 5,000 character limit. A key aspect of holistic review includes the consideration of applicants' attributes within the context of their experiences and academic metrics. Describe any personal qualities, characteristics, and/or lived experiences that could enrich the educational experience of others. And what did you write about here, and how did you choose that topic?
So that is about Fight Club, correct?
Yep,
Okay,
that's
perfect.
right.
Yes, ma'am. So Fight Club is something that when you hear it, you're like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound like something you want to write about. And that's kind of what I was going for with that was people looking at it and be like, what does that mean? But it simply is just about accountability. It's something that One Army does every morning or every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. is bring people out and get seniors to tell their stories, tell their downfalls, tell their failures and how they got over them, and give advice to the younger kids. So we call that Fight Club, and really my main goal with that one was, like I said, to get them hooked with the what is Fight Club. So, and that was really big on accountability, and I wrote a lot about that. So,
Yeah, no, that was great. And then there's an optional essay, which isn't really optional because TMDSAS encourages you to write it. And it's a shorter essay. Briefly discuss any unique circumstances or life experiences that are relevant to your application, which have not previously been presented. So how did you choose that topic?
so Camp Ozark was something that I haven't talked about really, but it played a big part in my whole story of wanting to grow the youth, wanting to help the youth learn who they are as people. And with that, it was a summer camp up in Arkansas where those kids came really not knowing what was going on. I had some younger kids, so, middle schoolers, but a lot of them were in a very rough time in their lives. They're going through a lot of stuff personally, and they could be going through some stuff at home. So that was very Christ-based. I'm a Christian, and that played into that. And I wanted to plant that seed in their lives. I wanted to show them that there were people there that were there for them. There was someone that would be on their shoulder at all times in Jesus Christ, and that was something that I was really passionate about, was working with those kids.
Yeah, beautiful. So I think in your application as a whole, we just get such a great sense of who you are and what's important to you. And, I think that's why you were so successful in this process. So, in terms of, getting interviews. So let's talk about now, with the Texas process. So how many Texas schools did you apply to? And how many osteopathic med schools did you apply to?
So I applied to all of the Texas schools. There's a button on there that says select all. So
Yeah,
that's
it's the
what I
easiest
did.
thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And I think most people that do TMDSAS will press that
I think so too.
because you want to maximize your chances. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't gonna just click one school and hope it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
I applied to all the Texas schools, including the osteopathic schools. And some of those are on TMDSAS and some of those are on AACOMAS. And I believe I applied to about 15 DO schools.
And how many Texas interviews did you get?
Yes, ma'am. So I got two Texas interviews to Sam Houston and then to Tyler. And then I got 9 osteopathic interviews. And I turned down most of those after an early acceptance. So,
Great.
yes, ma'am.
And can you say where that acceptance was? That
Yes,
early
ma'am.
acceptance?
Yes, ma'am. So I got accepted very early on, way earlier than I thought I'd get anything back, to Oklahoma State. And that was my number one out-of-state school, and I really loved it when I visited. And once I got that acceptance, I went on and turned away the rest of the interviews because I didn't want to take a spot from somebody who needed that, because I knew I wouldn't go to any other school out of state over Oklahoma State. So I just wanted everybody to have a chance at that spot that I'd turned down. So
Wonderful.
yes, ma'am.
And tell me your interviews. How did those go overall? Were there any common experiences that you had, any common questions that you were asked, or most of them conversations? Talk to me about some of the topics that came up in your interviews, things like that.
Yes, ma'am. One of the main things that I saw was talking to current students. That was a big part of the interview day, was sitting down with current students, whether it was over lunch, whether it was over a tour, and talking to them about what the school's about. And I found that to be very helpful because they didn't hold anything back. They told it how it was. They weren't trying to sell anything. They wanted to tell you how it was. So I found that to be really helpful that they took time out of their day to come talk to us about the schools. So whenever people are interviewing, the biggest piece of advice I can give them is if you have any questions, do not hold back. Ask those students those questions and they'll give you their honest feedback. So that was a big part.
Yeah, terrific. And how about your one-on-one interviews? And did you have any MMI interviews? But what about like your faculty interviews? What were those like?
Yes, ma'am. At Tyler, I had an MMI interview, and that was really different than anything I'd ever done before. Because you're sitting in a room, they give you a scenario, and you've got 8 minutes to talk. I believe it was 8 minutes to talk about
that's right.
those scenarios, and then you have a bunch of different rooms that you go to. You're not able to really get to know the person that's interviewing you because you're talking about it and then you're out. So one of the big things I really like doing is just talking to people, getting to know them, and that was the complete opposite of what I was used to. It was just those quick interactions. But the rest of them were, they would be kind of, I believe, 3 or 4 interviews with faculty members, with community members, with students, whatever it was. And those were the times that they'd ask you about your personality. They'd ask you what makes a leader in your eyes, what makes a good medical student, what's something that sets you apart, those common questions that you'll see. So,
Yeah. Okay, now talk to me a little bit about the Texas match, right? So like Texas is a little bit unusual versus other med schools. I kind of argue, I think all systems should move to this, to the match. I have to be honest, whatever, another topic for another day. But tell me a little bit about the match. So you had 2 Texas interviews. Tell me what happened there, because Texas also has a pre-match. Can you talk to me about the pre-match and then the regular match as well?
yes, ma'am. So I'll kind of start with the DO school. So the way those worked out of state was you get an interview, a week, 2 weeks later, you'll get a call back saying, hey, we want you to come. Hey, you are on our wait list, or I'm sorry, we're not able to offer. So that's kind of what you expect when you hear about med school. You hear, okay, you're going to interview and then you're going to hear something. But with Texas, it's different. You have your interviews anywhere from August, September up until December. And throughout that time, you're getting a bunch of interviews to different places, and you'll hear a pre-match potentially, and that's their way of accepting you. So I was lucky to hear a pre-match from UT Tyler. So on my match day, what you do is you rank where you interviewed at. So for me, UT Tyler was where I've wanted to go forever. It's my dream school. It opened 3 years ago, but that's what's been kind of my goal, is working up to UT Tyler. So I was blessed to get a pre-match there. But what you'll do is you'll rank those schools, all those schools that you interviewed to. I only interviewed at 2, but you can interview at 5, 6, 7 schools, and you have to rank those. And then this year was on February 13th. You heard back, you were matched to this place. Well, yeah. It's a really weird system that someone way smarter than me needs to explain. But
yeah,
it's not like you're going to get into your number 1 school. It's kind of a scary thing because if you're not pre-matched, there's no for sure that you're going to get into that place. So you could get into your 4th ranked school, which is still an amazing opportunity, but it might be far away from family or something like that. So you don't know where you're going to go. You don't hear an acceptance until that match day, and it's out of the blue.
Nerve-wracking. It's good practice for the residency match, Cason. You're ready. You're ready. So why do you think you matched at Tyler? What do you think it was about Tyler and their mission and who you are and what's important to you? And do you feel that you were able to communicate that to the medical school either via secondary essays or during the interview day itself?
Yes, ma'am. So at A&M, we're lucky to have some healthcare fairs. So we'll have medical schools come and talk to us. And it was in a ballroom in our kind of main center. But I walked in there and I talked to UT Tyler every time they were in there. Last year, I did my best to get to know everybody on that admissions staff.
Wow.
And it's a smaller school, so you have the ability to be able to meet a lot of people. So
Wow.
I was lucky to be able to meet those people and get my name in there. I kind of
Good for
vouched for
you.
myself before I even applied.
Yeah.
And I would follow up with them on email and I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for your time. It was great to talk to you. I love what UT
Good.
Tyler does. Can't wait for my application. And then when the application came around, I applied to Tyler and was lucky to hear back from him with an interview. But throughout that time, I also know a lot of people that are at UT Tyler because it's very East Texas focused. So, and that kind of goes into why I believe I was a good fit there. But I knew a lot of people there, so I would tell them, "Hey, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. This is my dream." And one of the main reasons I think I was successful with UT Tyler was my mission, was was what I've worked up to my whole life is serving rural medicine. And UT Tyler is very focused on rural medicine and serving those underserved populations. So I I put that in my application and I put how I truly felt. And it just happened to line up perfectly with what Tyler has. And I think that also comes from just growing up in the area. With people at UT Tyler, they have their own thoughts, but a lot of them in the East Texas area are lining up. It's a tight knit community, and the funny part is the people on the admissions staff that I'd met, we had connections. One of the men that worked on the staff, he knew one of the principals at the high school I went to, and the main lady for there, she knew really my family. She knew of our name, so it was just something that you have connections in the area, and I think that helped me out a lot was just lining up in mission and being from the area.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. And you were able to express, those ideals of
Yes,
wanting
ma'am.
to work there and wanting to work in rural communities as part of their secondary essays, right? I assume. I
Yes,
assume
ma'am.
I don't remember their secondary essays off the top of my head because I
It
can't
was
memorize them all.
It was a lot of, are you from East Texas? What are your ties to East
Yes.
Texas?
Right.
And I was just able to talk about my life.
Yeah.
I didn't have to,
Exactly.
I didn't have
And
to
you didn't,
find
it
any
was
distant
very
connection.
natural.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it was very natural. And I think that really is so important, Cason, as an illustration that so much of being successful in this process is about being aligned with a school's mission. And I do think that you are perfectly aligned with Tyler's mission. And I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
that you're going to go out and you're going to make them so proud.
Thank you.
So, so incredible success for a student who went into med school. Cason, you went in, you knew this was what you wanted to do. You made a plan. You got through freshman year. You got through that first 50 on your calc stats, whatever it was,
Yes, ma'am.
exam, and which is super common. And we try to explain that to freshmen. And you really engaged in experiences that were meaningful to you, yet that also really helped you to develop your narrative and to learn and to become more informed, as a pre-medical student and as a soon-to-be medical student. You prepared for that MCAT. You applied without knowing the MCAT. You got a 499. You got varying, types of advice like don't bother, go do an SMP, retake the MCAT, and you just forged ahead and everything worked out with 15 interviews, right, in total. And that was before you started pulling applications from the osteopathic schools, right? Once you got into your top choice osteopathic med school, and then you ultimately got a pre-match at your first choice med school. So you should be so unbelievably proud of yourself, and I'm sure your family is super proud of you as well.
And they're happy for me to be coming back home. So
yes,
I'm gonna
sure.
be close to all my family. My whole family's from the area, so that's been something that's been my dream,
Yeah.
and it's right there for me to
Amazing.
grab. So I'm excited.
That's amazing, Cason.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, for being so open with us, for talking about your path to medical school, your experience with TMDSAS, with AACOMAS. And I know you're going to inspire a lot of people, and and we're so grateful to you. So thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And for anyone who is interested in working with MedEdits, feel free to email us, info@mededits.com. You can also sign up for a free consultation. I'll include that link in the show notes. And please be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Cason, thank you so much again. You're awesome. You're going to be a great doctor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.